for watching, guys. This is fundamental rule number 4 for living a lean life. So we've looked at sugar, cutting it back. We've looked at increasing your greens. And we've looked at cutting back on caffeine. What we're going to talk about here is quality of your food and your drink. So I'm going to tell you a little story again about my experience with this. And basically what it is that I used to, I've always been into health and fitness. So I've always eaten what I thought at the time was a healthy diet. As I know now, this keeps evolving, as it will for you. But a few years ago, or probably 5 years ago, I would be training hard. I'd love training. It was about this time, 5 years, that I started getting into sort of proper strength work and away from bodybuilding routines. So at this time, I started, I was increasing my training volume. I was going a lot heavier, and it was a lot more, heavy on my nervous system. And what I found is that I kept on getting really run down, and if I trained just, hard for maybe 2 weeks, I'd end up with a cold, just with a common cold, and quite run down and feeling really, really shit, basically. Skip ahead about a year or two, and I met my partner, who is a bit of a health nut, and I really started getting into eating organic. I worked at organic markets on a Sunday at the time, so it was very easy for me to start getting more organic food into my diet. This included organic meat and organic vegetables and fruit. So a large proportion of my diet went to organic. Now looking back, since then, I really don't get run down like I used to, and I put it down to the fact that the quality of the food that I eat these days is so much better. I would eat vegetables and fruit and meat and grains back in the day, but the quality was just not there that it is today. I really feel and believe that everything we put into our body becomes our cells. So if we put shit in, we perform and we look shit. If we give ourselves, good stuff, then we look like we've been eating good stuff. So what's the difference? So we're going to look at vegetables, meat, and water mainly here in this short rule. So with vegetables, conventionally grown vegetables are highly sprayed. These crops are designed to have really high yields. So farmers want to get the most money for their crop, basically. So most of the time it's in their best interest to, grow as much as they can. And that means spraying it so they don't need to put so much care into each crop. So they spray it with chemical pesticides that kill bugs. We eat this food later. The only difference between bugs and us is that bugs are smaller. It kills us a lot slower than bugs, but it will kill us. It will make us sick. There's heaps of studies that sort of conflict, like much of these things, depending on who they're funded by and whatnot. Some show the nutrient value in organic vegetables and crops is higher, and some show there's no real difference between conventional and organic. There is quite conclusive evidence though that crop soil differs. So the soil that feeds organic plants is normally much higher in minerals than what it is that feeds conventional plants. And this does normally make a difference to the quality of the plant as well. It's exactly the same as us eating crap or us eating well. okay, is the health of the soil that the plants live in. So that's the main difference between vegetables and fruit, okay, is the amount of pesticides that are used. With organic vegetables and fruit, they can spray it, but the sprays need to be on an approved list, and they're not synthetic, so they're natural. Okay, they're from natural ingredients. With meat, okay, meat is a big problem. Conventional meat is pumped full of antibiotics, okay, to keep the animals basically alive, just so they can be used for meat. There's been heaps of cases of, cancerous animals being fed to humans that have been discovered. There's even in conventional meat, it's even been found that these animals are actually fed their own. That's basically how mad cow disease started. It was cows being fed to cows. Okay, mashed up cow that, falls dead from disease being mashed up and fed to the cows. So they're pumped full of antibiotics. The feeding isn't right for what they need. So most of the time, these animals are on grains, which also are genetically modified a lot of the time. And they're cramped up. They've got no room to move. They also, conventional meat also normally is not cared for in a way that breeds, good feelings. This might sound a bit weird, but I know if I eat conventional meat, it's quite common that you take on the energy of the food that you eat. And I can often feel the fear of the animals in this food that I eat if it's not organic. And there's the amount of nutrient value it's conclusive with meat that there's a lot more nutrient value in organic meat and less crap, okay, than in conventional meat. So I really invite you to look at, putting a little bit of extra money if you are a meat eater into, knowing where your meat comes from and making sure that it's able to be left out in the pastures and has access to the food that it should have, not to genetically modified grains and not pumped full of antibiotics. The other point about quality here is water. So most of the time we drink water thinking that we're doing a good deed for ourselves. And it's much better to drink water obviously than drinking a can of soft drink. But water actually also contains a lot of toxic waste. Depending on where you are in the world, but your water will most likely, contain chlorine and fluoride. You can look those two up and you'll be shocked at some research in those areas. But also what I want to speak to you about is antibiotics waste, the contraception pill waste. And this basically has been linked to a lot of male infertility due to estrogens, okay, the female hormone estrogen. So when we drink this water, we basically take on these estrogens into our system, and it can breed infertility. It can increase infertility in men, but it can also increase, when you have too much estrogen in your body, you'll be much more likely to hold on to belly fat. So I really recommend that you also look at buying yourself a filter. There's different types of filters. Do a little bit of research, but it's much nicer to be drinking water that is actually doing yourself and your health and your fitness goals a favor instead of contradicting them. So that's quality matters. Looking into increasing the quality of your vegetables and your fruit. Looking at meat. and looking at your water. They're the best places to start. To do this, okay, look at local farmers markets. There's lots of organic markets around. But also even your supermarket has organic options. And normally it's not that much more expensive. You can also look at health food shops, co-ops, okay? Or even just, your local butcher might have an organic section. So that's rule number 4. Okay, we've got sugar, cutting back, greens increasing, cutting back on caffeine, looking at the quality of the food that you're eating. And we've also got the next one here that we're going to look at is mixing it up. So this is referring to exactly what you can see, protein. So mixing up your protein sources. So if you're a meat eater, I invite you to look at eating different types of meat. So if you're prone to eating all beef, step away from beef and mix it up with some chicken, some lamb, some goat, some duck. Okay, really spread it around. If you're a vegetarian, look at eating different plant-based proteins. So not just soy, okay, not just tofu. Look at hemp seeds. Look at different types of legumes, white beans, brown beans, aduki beans, all these things. If you're a meat eater, also include some plant-based proteins. There's a big advantage to eating plant-based proteins. Okay, it's much more sustainable in the long term for our environment. It takes a massive amount of energy and grain to feed the cows that we eat. Much more energy than what we actually get from the meat. So I invite you to look at some plant-based options as well. Also look at different cuts of meat. So if you normally always just eat the fleshy parts, the chicken breast, the rump steak, look at eating some organ meats. Look at eating some liver, some heart. These were the types of meats that were traditionally considered the best and the most rich in the vitamins and the minerals. So it can be a little bit irky at first if you're not used to it. But I've just been recently getting into liver, okay, just liver meats, and I just chop it up really finely and mix it in with my regular mince. And you can't really tell at all. It is quite a strong flavor, but you still can't really tell if you just cut it up quite finely or even grate it. And the amount of extra benefit that you get from that is massive. So they're the 2 rules, the fundamental rules that I believe are going to make a difference to you, just there. So thanks for watching, and I look forward to talking to you again and seeing how you're going in the next video.